News now begins in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, where police fired tear gas to disperse a group of protesters rallying against the country's economic policies, governance, and rising cost of living. The demonstration, organized by civil society groups, follows calls for a nationwide protest set for October 1st, coinciding with Nigeria's 64th independence anniversary. Protesters are demanding reductions in fuel and food prices, electricity tariffs, and release of activists arrested during demonstrations in August. Since assuming office last year, President Bola Tinubu has implemented key reforms, including the removal of fuel subsidy and a liberalizing the naira, actions analysts believe will stimulate economic recovery and attract foreign investment. However, these measures have led to a surge in fuel prices and inflation reaching its highest level in 30 years, putting immense pressure on citizens. In a country as diverse and dynamic as Nigeria, protests have become a powerful tool for citizens to express their frustrations, demand accountability, and advocate change. But just how effective are protests in Nigeria, especially 64 years after independence? Nigeria, a nation of over 200 million people and numerous resources, continues to grapple with social, political, and economic challenges. News Central's Bettina Nweli reports.
With renewed hope mantra, but he has forgotten. He's giving us shaggy.
From the protest against the military rule in the 1990s to the hashtag Occupy Nigeria movement in 2012 and the global sensation of the hashtag EndSARS protest in 2020, among others, Nigeria has a rich history of civil resistance. Each protest has had varying degrees of success in achieving its objectives. The power of collective action in Nigeria can be traced back to the colonial era. Protests, strikes, and boycotts played pivotal roles in the struggle for independence in 1960.
Most people are hungry, most of the citizens. And even like as a businessman, the customers are not turning up. Like things have went downhill, as in, I'm short of words to explain.
They are there to serve us, but now they believe that we are people that are serving them, and it's not proper. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
In 2012, Nigeria experienced one of its largest nationwide protests, the hashtag Occupy Nigeria movement. Triggered by the government's removal of fuel subsidies, the protest brought the country to a standstill, uniting Nigerians across ethnic and religious divides in their opposition to economic hardship. 64 years after independence, the removal of subsidy seems to have plunged the nation deep in hunger. For many, the promise of a better tomorrow feels distant. Inflation rises while wages remain stagnant. The basic necessities such as food, fuel, and housing have become luxuries for the average Nigerian. Fuel scarcity persists despite Nigeria's wealth in oil. Families are forced to make hard decisions of survival over comfort and hope over despair.
What we have seen over the past 64 years is the increasing worsening of our lot as working people. We have seen a situation in which poverty rate has continued to increase. We have seen a situation in which access to basic services has continued to reduce, such that education is almost totally inaccessible for the child of the common man today, such that food is almost inaccessible for the bulk of Nigerian people today. We have too many of our people sleeping on the streets who are homeless today. That is the situation we are in today.
Nigerians are hungry and suffering. Formerly, we used to buy 1 derrick of beans for 500. Now it's 2,000 naira for loin. The white one is 1,005. One pieces of fish before, it was 300, 500. Now it's 4,000 naira.
This is the first time in my life at age 56 that I'm seeing an Independence Day being celebrated with mass protest. Nigerians are not happy, and so the government are celebrating their jamboree. We are protesting against them.
Today is a symbolic day for Nigerians to say we reject their own independence and we want our own independence from internal colonizers. So if they don't listen, why are they doing everything there? Why do you have police today if they are not listening, if they are not afraid? Yeah.
I'm happy for the country. I'm happy for myself. 64 years is no joke. For we coming together and this standing together and this strong, and this proposal as a nation is something to celebrate, not something to protest about. Thank you.
Protests, but peacefully organized as this, will continue to be a critical aspect of Nigeria's evolving democracy. As the nation faces ongoing challenges such as economic disparity, corruption, and insecurity, citizens will likely keep raising their voices. As Nigeria turns 64 as an independent nation, the role of activism cannot be overemphasized. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Bettina Nwili.
Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, marks its independence from British colonial rule in 1960. Today's celebration of the 64th Independence Day presents an opportunity for reflection on the nation's progress and a recognition of its ongoing challenges. President Bola Tinubu, 16 months into his administration, has faced criticisms for being out of touch with the realities Nigerians face. In his Independence Day address, he acknowledged these concerns and made firm pledges to improve the nation's trajectory. News Central's Chidimana reports.
October 1st, 2024, Nigeria celebrates its 64th Independence Day, marking over 6 decades since gaining freedom from British colonial rule. In a nationwide broadcast, President Bola Tinubu reflected on the nation's journey and reassured Nigerians that their concerns are being heard amid these challenging times. He recognized the economic and social difficulties many Nigerians are grappling with, but reaffirmed his administration's commitment to addressing these issues with long-term solutions.
Central concern of our people today is the high cost of living, especially food costs. This concern is shared by many around the globe as prices and the cost of living continue to rise worldwide. The economy is undergoing the necessary reforms and retooling to serve us better and more sustainably. If we do not correct the physical misalignment that led to the current economic downturn, our country will face an uncertain future and the peril of unimaginable consequences.
The president highlighted key monetary policies aimed at stabilizing the economy, emphasizing the government's strides in reducing tax burdens on citizens.
The Federal Executive Council approved the Economic Stabilization Bill, which will now be transmitted to the National Assembly. This transformative bill will make our business environment more friendly, stimulate investment, and reduce the tax burden on businesses and workers once they are passed into law. We inherited a reserve of over 33 billion 16 months ago. Since then, we have paid back the inherited forex backlog of 7 billion. We have cleared the ways and means debt of over 30 trillion naira. We have reduced the debt service ratio from 97% to 68%.
He also celebrated Nigerians' intellectual and cultural contributions, pointing to achievements in arts, science, technology, and infrastructure. On national security, Tinubu noted that substantial progress has been made, although challenges remain.
On the security front, I am happy to announce to you, my compatriots, that our administration is winning the war on terror and banditry. Our target is to eliminate all threats of Boko Haram, banditry, kidnapping for ransom, and the scourge of all forms of violent extremism. Within 1 year, our government has eliminated many Boko Haram and bandit commanders faster than ever.
Tinubu announced a 30-day youth conference designed to address the unique challenges young Nigerians face.
As we work to overcome the challenges of the day, we remain mindful of next generation as we seek to galvanize their creative energy towards a better future. We lead today with the future we wish to bequeath to our children in focus, recognizing that we cannot design a future that belongs to them without making them its architects. Considering this, I am pleased to announce the gathering of a national youth conference. This conference will be a platform to address the diverse challenges and opportunities confronting our young people.
The president assured citizens that as the country moves forward, his administration would remain closely connected to the people, pledging continued support in overcoming obstacles and fostering a more prosperous future for all Nigerians. In Lagos for News Central, Chidinma Ona.
Now, in recent times, there have been calls for a new constitution in Nigeria. As the nation marks its 64th anniversary, News Central Television takes a review of the nation's democratic odyssey, juxtaposing it with whether the call is granted will help Nigeria solve its teething challenges. Our correspondent, Joshua Marai, takes us through the issues and tells us more.
Nigeria's constitutional history is marked by key milestones: the 1960 Independence Constitution, the 1979 Constitution, and the 1999 Constitution. Each has had its challenges and controversies, with many outlining several flaws that have hampered the nation's development. The 1999 Constitution in particular has been at the center of criticisms for its emergence through a military regime.
When you look at the people who gave us the Constitution, the military, the process wasn't very people inclusive.
And because it was the military that drafted the Constitution, it cannot be said to be a true representation of the intent of the letters of the Constitution.
What matters is whether those words, one, they are strong, compelling words that can be a mission statement for a democratic, modern state.
Today, debates around checks and balances, federalism, and a host of other missing ingredients have been highlighted as areas of required attention.
The question around exclusive list. Clarity will have to allow states do more, and again, that brings the issue of federalism. The Nigerian Federal Constitution speaks also in a very conflicting way.
Power is too concentrated. Let me give you a simple analogy of the issue of the ever ongoing debate around state policing, where the federal government controls the activities of policing nationwide. It boils more about building institutions rather than, whether state policing will be hijacked by the governors or the critical stakeholders in the locality or not. If we focus on building strong institutions, then state policing will work perfectly.
The character of Nigerian political economy, you end up always having one dominant political view. So the multiple parties are in bed on one thing. And so it can't be a National Assembly that has check and balance. First, the leadership consider themselves as an extension of the executive branch of government.
Also, eminent elder statesmen have called on Nigeria's president to accede to the calls of citizens, saying the current constitution being practiced has outlived its usefulness.
So we came to convey this view that Nigeria needs a people's democratic constitution.
Every assembly since 1999 has attempted to review or revise the Constitution. It is either there is something fundamentally wrong with the Constitution, or that we are a people that are incapable of trusting one another and of being governed with a set of basic laws, except everything is written in black and white.
While the calls for a new constitution have become louder in recent years, there have been mixed reactions on the possibility of who will lead the charge to adopt a new constitution.
The recent performance of National Assembly doesn't give hope of any serious work happening there. But look, what they mean is this, and they're right. We have a democracy, quote unquote, in a formal sense. So when you elect leaders, or they elect themselves, or they rig themselves to power, the general presumption that you have a democratic leader has legitimacy. And so, if you're going to make change, they should be the ones making change. So the argument will be, you guys, you have legislators. Every state in Nigeria has 3 senators, and maybe more than 12, 11, or 5 or 6 reps, depending on the size of those states. So they will tell you, those are the guys you should go and talk to. Let them raise a motion to amend this constitution, to suspend it. They control the legislative authority, which is the authority to make rules.
Assuming, without conceding that your assertion that the representatives truly represent the people, then they should be able to convene a sovereign national conference, right? However, when the people who are supposed to be the representatives of the people do not really represent the people, where they have stolen elections like we have just witnessed in Edo.
These people, that the first thing they did when they got into that house is to buy themselves new cars. Those are the people you want to negotiate on your behalf? I'm sorry, no.
Many believe that key stakeholders, including the 3 tiers of government, the active civil society and citizens, must take responsibility for addressing Nigeria's constitutional challenges. They say addressing these issues can build a more stable, just and prosperous future. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
And now to discuss this, we are joined by a political analyst, Catch Ononuju. Ononuju, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. So I'm going to go straight to it and ask how the National Assembly has evolved since Nigeria's independence, and what significant changes have occurred since its structure, and also its functions?
Oh, well, thank you very much for that question. If I will say, I will tell you, the National Assembly has come into its own, though assembled through the act of the military decree 24. I think they have now seen how very unworkable the manuals that were handed to us by the military are. And so we've gotten to a point where it's now very pertinent to ask, the words written into the book of We the People, was it actually crafted by we the people? And since we believe it doesn't work, the vehicle doesn't work properly, it is right for us to show that we are members of a dynamic society. It's time for us to now recalibrate the Articles of Association, which is the Constitution. The Articles of Association were not crafted by we the people. It was written by we the soldiers. And we, for the sake of trying to get them out, accepted the manuals they gave us. But you can see those who felt they are very advantaged in the works of the soldiers are the ones who are insisting that we the people should not sit down to draft and recalibrate papers in intentions with the will of we the people. We now know what we the people feel. We the people feel that the manuals that were given to us by virtue of Decree 24 does not suit the demands of a diverse society as we have in Nigeria. So what we now need to do is to try to do something new. One, the over-concentration of powers at the center is not sustainable. Two, you can see the way we're going. As I am talking to you right now, the country is virtually a one-party state. The opposition has crumbled as a consequence of the fraud perpetrated by the soldiers. If the things were properly done and there were proper balancing of weights within the various federating geopolitical zones, we would not have the refusal of someone like Atiku Abubakar to concede to that article of inclusion, also called zoning. That's when he refused to concede, and because they felt that the soldiers did some kind of fraudulent calibration that gave people from his side advantage. He pursued it, and the people from the south left the PDP, and today the opposition is dead. So I blame the antics of people like Atiku Abubakar, who, using the manuals given to us by the military, have actually undermined the ability of other people to gain inclusion. And don't forget, and because they've gained, refusing to get inclusion, I, Doyle Okupe, and Peter Obi left the PDP and we started the youth movement, which you also call the obedient movement.
All right, sir.
And what you have, that's why the opposition is dead today.
Okay, sir.
Without a viable opposition, the democracy is challenged in a way that we've never seen since inception of our current incipient democracy.
Now, Mr. Ononuju, thank you for that. It's a very interesting concept there, that we the soldiers versus we the people. But if the National Assembly has been vested with the responsibility of passing legislation that addresses Nigeria's socio-economic challenges, one has to ask if they're actually still listening to the people. Are they there for the citizenry? So the question is, how effective have they been thus far?
Well, you also need to look at right now that we have come face to face with the principles of state capture, and you can see elections no more work as they should work. I believe it is now time for us to set purpose towards saving not only our democracy, but also our people. Where we are getting to right now, with the quality of voter apathy we have within the polity, you do not seek frustration. And I believe despair is not what we should encourage. If the people now feel despair, you could see alternative attempts to actually go very crazy ways. And I do not want such happening to the population. As I'm talking to you right now in our country, the opposition is comatose, it is moribund, it doesn't exist. Nigeria is effectively in a one-party state. Why? Due to the fraudulent actions of the soldiers, which people like Atiku Abubakar grabbed on to undermine the principles of inclusion that are enshrined in the coded articles of zoning in the parties. If the Southeast have supported the North in 2007 through Yaradua, supported Atiku in 2019 as he ran, why will he not allow the inclusion of other parts of the country in this same arrangement of zoning? If Nigeria embraced quota system to allow the North to gain inclusion, why should the Northerners who now gain advantage refuse to allow other parts of the country to also feel a sense of belonging? No, they want to grab the military manuals and then to undermine the inclusion of other people. That's why the Southerners, led by me, Doyle Okupe, and Peter Obi, left the PDP to start the youth movement. And the consequence of that is that the opposition died. And as opposition died, Nigeria currently, as I speak to you, is a one-party state.
All right, Mr. Ononuju.
And I've said it variously. If we are to rebuild the opposition, we need people like Atiku to climb down from his horse and support the South. As far as I'm concerned, I am better off with President Tinubu than a Northerner still being there. Because if you allow a Northerner to be there for 16 years, the country is gone. You can see they are not allowing other people to feel inclusive. Don't forget, the resources of the country come from the South. The largest concentration of populations are in the South. But because of the fraudulent connotations of the military manual, you now have a slanted game where you have more states in the South, in the North, and those states always go to party conventions and then have the ability to tell you they will bring candidates, undermining
Now, Mr. Ononuju,
of the people. So,
Mr. Ononuju, you stated something very interesting. First of all, about Atiku and him requesting for inclusion. I was going to ask you about that and what you thought about that, but I see that you've covered that. But you mentioned something very interesting about being comfortable with the current administration and not being comfortable with a northern one. I wanted to expatiate on that, but I'll give you 2 minutes just, however. But how exactly did you mean, and how is that detrimental?
It is detrimental to allow a section of the country, the North, to manipulate the fraudulent intent of the military manual as decreed by Decree 24, which is the current constitution, and then use that not to allow. Don't forget how Tinubu became president. He seized the stage at the Eagle Square, and as he said, uses money to buy the primary. The Northerners moved to support Atiku, but because as the exit polls came, it was P2B everywhere. They held it, another election, and told us there was a glitch. But as you heard just before the protest, they tried to blackmail Tinubu that he didn't give him power. He said, no, he didn't give me power. I bought it with my power. So after they annulled the election, Tinubu bought the power of them, and now they're coming back to say Tinubu should share power with them. And Tinubu refused. And that's what we have. So what I'm trying to say is, it is better for me that a Southerner rules after 8 years of Buhari than a Northerner rules. And if the Northerner rules forever, we don't have anything.
All right,
for instance, in Imo State, Imo State is home to 54% of the gas reserves of Nigeria. Buhari in 2019 built a gas pipeline from Imo, taking it through rivers into the north through the AKK gas pipeline. None of the states of the Southeast was included in Buhari's vision of National Gas Master Plan. It's only taking Hope Uzodinma today, the governor, to achieve the most significant economic advantage for the East by using the monies he's gotten from African Development Bank to now do a gas reticulation in Imo State so that the Egbema power plants can get gas from the Assar gas field.
All right, then, Mr. Ononuju, I want to say thank you very much for your contributions here this evening. Your opinion is very well stated. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
I thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome, sir. And now let's go on a break, and then when we get back, medical practitioners call for reform in health sector. We'll tell you more after this break. And you're welcome back. In the health sector, as Nigeria celebrates 64 years post-independence, its healthcare system is facing a daunting crisis, with the government's failure to prioritize public spending on healthcare exacerbating widespread inequalities in access and outcomes. Despite committing to allocate at least 15% of its national budgets to healthcare, Nigeria has yet to meet its target, leaving its health sector in shambles. News Central's Adeshawa Odushoga reports.
We will continue to work for the unity, stability, and progress of our country.
The Nigerian government is falling far short in its commitment to prioritize public spending on healthcare, contributing to widespread inequalities in healthcare access and outcomes. On April 27, 2001, approximately 23 years ago, Nigeria, alongside other African countries under the umbrella of the African Union, adopted the Abuja Declaration, in which they set a target of allocating at least 15% of their national budgets to improve health care. Unfortunately, this target is yet to be met, leaving the Nigerian health sector in a dilapidated state.
Every government that takes our doctor away should pay us the money for training them. If you say we have 300 doctors or maybe 200 doctors in Nigeria going to the UK, how many of the UK doctors have come to now impact training to doctors in this country? You can say, okay, every year, every 2 years, you come in this particular specialty, come and train doctors in this field, in this country, and let them improve. So instead of paying those people that come to train them, the cost of our doctors living for the country is what we use to replace them coming to train us as bilateral arrangement.
One major issue that also takes center stage here is the recent insecurity in the country, which is now targeting healthcare professionals. In recent times, the country has recorded a series of cases of abduction of healthcare professionals, one of which is Ganiat Bola, who was abducted alongside her husband and nephew. This led to a recent strike action by the National Association of Resident Doctors to raise awareness.
It's become almost like the response of most doctors now is just to take their bags and leave. Factors have continuously increased. The economy is not so flamboyant. Now there's insecurity. How much does a doctor really earn? And what's the, even when he's in any such an amount, you know, what's the buying power of that, whatever he earns?
All of these have been contributing to the recent brain drain in the health sector, which has left a huge gap in the sector, leaving doctors overwhelmed, underpaid, and unmotivated. Every year, the country records the exit of hundreds of doctors, nurses, and pharmacists, among others, to European countries in seek of a greener pasture, a better working condition, and better welfare.
For you to be verified, you must have been working as a nurse for like a period of 2 years, that you need to go and get a letter of good standing from your director of nursing. You need to go and get a director of a hospital. You need to go and get a letter of good standing from your last nursing institution, which is quite strange to me. When it is not possible to verify the license, you just open the floodgate for quacks. I've been living here, I've been living and practicing in Australia for the past 20 years. If the situation is conducive for me to continue my practice in Nigeria, I would prefer to live in Nigeria.
Most of our nurses, they are just on standstill now. Career-wise, professional-wise, they are not even able to move from where they are. Some of them can no longer practice.
The Ministry of Interior.
The federal government has since been working towards transforming the brain drains into gains, one of which is evident in President Tinubu's national policy on health workforce migration. Expected to not only address the mass exodus of healthcare workers out of Nigeria, but also envisions a thriving workforce that would meet the healthcare needs of Nigerians.
Last year alone, we lost 900 doctors between January and July. Every day people want to leave the country, so you don't even have people replacing those that are leaving. We have 774 local governments in this country. Do we have 774 primary health care center? No. Do we have functional, equipped primary health care center? No. We must start first by increasing the budget of health.
The health sector remains a crucial part of the nation's economy, but with inflation affecting the prices of medicine, the outbreak of diseases, the high cost of medical services, the massive exodus of doctors, and insecurity, increased attention is needed, especially in the areas of budgetary allocation, to meet the needs and tackle the underlying challenges faced by medical practitioners. In Lagos, for News Central, Adeshawa Odushoga.
Now, women constitute up to 70% of cross-border traders in Africa. Experts believe their contribution to trade and industrialization is grossly undervalued, hence the call on government for more empowerment through training and financial support. News Central's Omolola Ololade tells us more in this report.
The Global Entrepreneurship Monitor reports that women in sub-Saharan Africa are more likely to start businesses than women in any other region of the world. Despite the significant contributions of women entrepreneurs to Africa's economic growth, they face several challenges, including limited access to finance, training, and markets. It is on this note that the Federation of Business Women in Nigeria and across the West African region came together to discuss possible solutions as well as a way forward.
The rationale of doing this is transborder trade within the ECOWAS region, with bringing all the women within the ECOWAS country together to come together to trade within ourselves.
We ask that little education is given to them. Information on funding is taken out there, looking at their products and how they can grow is also important.
However, captains of industries emphasize the importance of capacity building to empower African entrepreneurs to help transform their businesses and communities.
ECOWAS has set up the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme to facilitate trade among the region. And the first challenge and the first thing women entrepreneurs should do is to get informed of this scheme. And when they are well informed and they get onto the border, nobody can cheat them because they know their rights.
I believe so much in capacity building because we are talking about sustainability. How do you sustain anything if people are not trained to take over?
Female entrepreneurs from diverse African countries identify the role of creating digital platforms in improving cross-border trade while employing the African government to support with finance and training.
And from the government, we are waiting for them to support the training of women entrepreneurs and to help them get more funding to invest into their company so that they can be competitive and produce and offer better goods at cheap price on the global market.
ITC platform that has been set up that will be linking the market, producers to buyers and buyers to producers.
For Africa to continue to tap into the enormous size of the collective African market, experts believe the continent must remove all barriers hindering cross-border trade and build upon its potential for a robust economy for the continent. In Lagos for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
Coming up, Macky Sall to face off against Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. I'll tell you more after the break. Join us then. Welcome back. Now, Senegal's opposition coalition has selected former President Macky Sall as its lead candidate for the upcoming parliamentary elections in November. This announcement was made by officials from Sall's former majority party on Tuesday. If approved by the election directorate, the parliamentary race is set to reignite the rivalry between Sall and current Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. Sonko, who was jailed for more than 7 months during Sall's presidency and barred from running in the March presidential election, has been confirmed as the candidate for his PASTEF party in the November 17 poll. Senegal's political landscape has been turbulent in recent years. The unrest culminated in the presidential election earlier this year, where Sonko's replacement, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, secured a decisive victory with over 54% of the vote, defeating Amadou Ba, the successor to Sall. Now, Tuesday night's sole planned debate between vice presidential candidates 5 weeks before polling day might also be the last chance for Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump's campaigns to address a sizable audience on national TV before the election. For News Central, Chief International Correspondent Afia Hagen has more.
U.S. vice presidential candidates J.D. Vance and Tim Walz will face off this evening in a debate that promises to be a feisty battle to win over voters in Middle America, who could decide the cliffhanger 2024 election. The Republican Ohio Senator and the Democratic Minnesota Governor make for a study in contrast and have already traded a series of bad-tempered insults in the bitter race for the White House. The combative Vance shares former President Donald Trump's gift for courting controversy, whether by smearing Democrats as childless cat ladies, spreading bogus stories about pet-eating migrants, or questioning his rival's military record. Waltz is a folksy Midwestern former teacher and a high school football coach who was chosen at lightning speed by Vice President Kamala Harris after his attacks on Vance and Trump as Weird went viral. But what the pair have in common is that their bosses are counting on them to reach out to voters in the blue-collar US heartland and help propel them to the Oval Office. The debate, hosted by CBS Network in New York at 9 p.m. on Tuesday, could also be the last major televised face-off before the election. Trump has refused to take part in a second debate with Harris after pundits and polls agreed the Democrat won the first one on September the 10th. A little extra spice could come from the fact that Vance and Walz's microphones will be live throughout, allowing them to cut in on their rivals. Trump and Harris had their mics muted when it was not their turn to talk during their debate. The pressure on Tuesday could be biggest on Vance, the youthful senator whom Trump picked in June in the hope that he could reach out to his blue-collar base. For Waltz, it's been a heady ascent since Harris picked him shortly after her own sudden replacement of President Joe Biden as a Democratic presidential nominee. But in the end, the debate will likely come down to a clash of personalities. Polls show Vance trails Waltz in terms of popularity with voters, and at one point he had some of the lowest ratings of any vice presidential nominee in US history. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagan.
Now, sports. Orlando Pirates defender Olisa Ndah is a major doubt for Nigeria's Super Eagles ahead of the crucial 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Libya. The former Oka United star missed last weekend's South African Premier League match against Richards Bay after picking up an injury in the previous fixture against Polokwane City. Ndah was forced off the 75th minute of the game and was later confirmed to have sustained a knock. Ndah, who played a key role in the Nigeria 3-0 victory over Benin in Uyo, had been expected to feature in the squad for the October 11 showdown with Libya. His fitness remains a concern for the Super Eagles coaching staff. And France's Arthur Fils came back from a match point down to win the Japan Open with a 5-7, 7-6, 6-3 victory over countryman Ugo Humbert on Tuesday. Fils, the world number 24, came back from the brink to edge his Paralympic double partner in 3 hours 4 minutes in Tokyo. This is the 20-year-old Fils' third career title and second this year following his success in Hamburg. Humbert, the world number 19, lost the final for the first time in his career, having won the previous 6. He was bidding to become the first player in the ATP Tour history to win his first 7 finals. With his victory, Fils now becomes the youngest champion in Tokyo in over 40 years. U.S. middle distance runner Shannon Roberry will finally become an Olympic bronze medalist 12 years after she competed in the London Olympics. Roberry will receive the medal after several athletes in the women's 1,500-meter final were disqualified for doping violations. While Roberry initially finished in 6th place, she is now set to be moved up to 3rd after last month's Court of Arbitration for Sports ruling to disqualify Tatiana Tomashova's race result between June 2012 and January 2015 after testing for anabolic steroids. The 2012 Olympic women's 1,500 meters had been infamous even before CAS's latest ruling. 5 out of the 13 runners, including gold and silver medalists Alice Sekerk-Alpetekin and Gamze Bulut, are set to have their results disqualified in what is now considered one of the dirtiest races in the history of track and field. And that's all we have for you this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories we brought your way. Police fired tear gas at Abuja demonstrators against economic policies and soaring living costs. And Macky Sall to face off against Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko in Senegal's parliamentary elections. And we also told you that Kenyan lawmakers launched motion to impeach Deputy President. Now, do remember that you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, on Star Times channel 274, Evo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino. Appeal.